So you're thinking about modding your car but don't know where to start? Here's a list of some good beginner friendly or some mods in general that you should start with on your car. What's up everybody? Welcome back to Dreek Speed Shop. Once again, it's the only shop on YouTube that don't got a shop. The shop don't exist. And speed don't exist right now either. But we working on it. Today we're going to talk about some mods that I started off with. I feel like it's real beginner friendly mods. And also some mods that honestly I feel like every car should have. Especially if you're using them on your daily or your street cars. In the last video, I had a couple mods that I don't recommend for street cars. And this, in my opinion, all beginner mods should be on any street car because they don't completely ruin, or they also make the drivability of your car better, in my opinion. But before I yap y'all faces on and I sit here and talk about it all day, don't forget to like, subscribe, and at the end of the video, if you see any mods or you can think of any mods, drop them down below. Let's jump straight into the video. Starting at number 5. And these items I'm telling you about are going to be on every single list I have on YouTube if I ever make a list for performance or mods in general. And that is wheels and tires, or just tires. For the simple fact that they can change the whole dynamic of your car. And it's simple to install. Well, if you get the wheels and tires already put together. Because all it is you take off and put back on. It's not anything more than that. It's 4 or 5 bolts depending on your car. You take them off, you put it back on. Granted, sometimes if you don't torque them down right, you might be driving down the road and your tire fall off. But to get to that point, you had to make something a really bad decision or mistake in that process. And the reason why I always put tires on my list, or any mod that I do, is because tires, can change the whole, wheels and tires can change the whole look of your car. Whether you make them bigger to fill in your wheel gap, or you just upgrade from your stock OEM wheels, either that's Steely's or a hubcap, or just a regular 5 or 6 spoke car wheel. It'll update and might make your car look more modern, especially if you have an older car. Also, performance wise, if you have cheap or fresh off the factory tires, sometimes those tires tend to be cheaply made and they like to not stick on the road well, especially if you're going for performance based cars, or just you are living in an area that has a lot of stops and goes and turns and whips and all that. Cheap tires aren't the best, and they also don't last as long. And if you're a beginner, you need tires, or you need parts that last as long as they can, because if you're a beginner, 9 times out of 10 you're on a daily driver, you drive that car a lot. And you need tires that last more than a year or more than 100 miles. Number 4 for me. This is another one that also I could put on other lists. And it's anything suspension related. Especially if you have an older car. Once you start modding your car and you have an older car, you're adding more power or you lower it, you need to start worrying about your suspension parts. Simply put, like I said, if you have an older car's suspension either isn't designed up to modern spec, which obviously it's an older car. The suspension likes going out. We were talking about older cars, and sometimes newer cars, especially if you start lowering your car and you stress out the new or your older suspension. And also, suspension's another one, especially if you're only doing springs or coilovers. Suspension's another mod where it's really just take off and put back on. You really, because I know when I did my lowering springs, you can drop the video link down below. Really, a lot of the work that I had to do was take a bolt or 2 off, lower pieces, and put it back in. Granted, like the tires, you got to torque everything down right, or you're gonna be riding down the road and your tire or your axle falls off. But for that to happen, it has to be something that you did and it really messed something up. Once again, the reason why this is beginner mod is because, like I said, it's a lot of take on, put off. There's videos of people like, for example, we got Adam LZ who did a whole coilover swap in 15 minutes. That's an example of how easy some suspension things can be. Granted, once you start replacing bushings, you got to get special tools to knock the bushing out and push them back in. But when it comes to just springs or coilovers, it's very, once again, take off, put on. You can go back and I mentioned this already. You can go back and watch my H&R video. Especially the back spring, especially you have a separate spring and strut. Where all I did was unbolted the strut from the control arm, dropped the control arm, spring came out, put new spring in, bolted everything back up, and it's back fine. Simple as that. It took me 30 minutes to do the back, if that. And that's just because, once again, I was a beginner when I did it. It was one of the first bigger mods that I did outside of learning how to change my oil. And it was very simple, straightforward. And that's why that's on beginner list. On to the next mod. Alright, so for number 3. And the time that it takes you to do this depends on how mechanically inclined you are. But I feel like even with little to no knowledge of how to work on stuff, you can do this. And it's the exhaust. You got 2 options. Or really, you got unlimited options. But for my beginners, just like me, myself, I'm still consider myself a beginner. Let's not ramble on too much. Most exhaust, once again, these are all parts I'm giving you that are literally, you take off stuff and you put it back on the same way it came off. Some cars are a little bit different, especially if you're doing a catback, which I did on my car. I had to cut the muffler out to get the whole piece out, because when they made the car, they put the exhaust on first and bolted everything above it or under it. So it made it where I had to cut it in half to get the exhaust off. But outside of that, everything was, once again, take off, put back on. Simple as that. And then exhaust is another thing. If you don't have it on your car and it's your daily driver, you can still drive your car. Granted, it's not going to sound the best, and you might get complaints. You might even get pulled over. But say you run out of time because you're a beginner and you didn't finish your exhaust, and it's halfway on and you need to go somewhere, like you have to go somewhere, you can crank your car up and go. A lot of these mods that I'm telling us today, or we're discussing today, are mods that don't necessarily affect the drivability of your car, as in like if it cranks on or not. And it's also take on, take off, put on, right after you take everything off, keeping it simple. So my guys out there, we don't go out there and make mistakes of, which I've done before, making mistakes of going too far past our knowledge levels and expecting to be able to drive our car the next day. But let's talk about exhaust more. Exhaust you can find for cheap. They're very easy to install, especially you find, I didn't get lucky with the exhaust I did for like piece wise, but there's some exhausts that you can get and it's just one big piece. You bolt everything up and you're done. You'd be done within an hour. My case, I bought my exhaust from FS Works and it came in 4 pieces, I believe. So it took a little bit longer because I had to get all the joints and everything put together right. But and it only took me 2 hours to do it. And this is like the first thing I've ever done to my car outside of changing oil and small maintenance things. So if I can do it, I know you can do it. At number 2, especially if you have an older vehicle, I know a lot of these mods I said if you have an older vehicle, which if you're modding your car, modding older vehicles are really the way to go in my opinion, especially if this is your second car or your first car. It doesn't really matter if you have an older vehicle. Headlights are one of the best mods you can do. It helps you see. And then also headlights are one of the main ways that you can make your car look even more modern than it already is. If you have a little bit newer car or you have an older car like me, personally, I felt like my Focus looked way better once I put headlights on it. And it's just a minor change, but it's something that can make your car look way better. It helps you see at night. I can't complain about that. Improve safety. And also, I got added features that my car would never have if I didn't put new headlights in. Like now, I have daylight running lights. I have LED, like actual LED lights, not just the regular plug-in ones. And I have halos. These are all things that my car would never have unless I put these headlights in. You can also get these headlights pretty cheap from eBay, or you can go all the way up to getting custom ones from people who make them. I don't have any sources on that, but I'm pretty sure you can find one. I got mine from eBay and they still work, and I got mine 4 or 5 years ago, before I even, once again, another thing that I started doing before I even modded my car, because my old headlights were broke because, not going to long story, my mom hit my car. But that's neither here nor there. She hit the car, broke the headlight, bought new ones off eBay. Now my car looks way better because the headlights just look modern. And yeah, let's go to the next one. Now last but not least is really anything interior, but what I like to do first, and I've done this on most of the cars I have, the Camaro and the Focus, is radio. The radio is one thing that you interact with every time you get in a car, especially if it's your daily driver or a street car. You're going to interact with it at least once or twice. You're going to interact with the car radio anytime you get in the car. In my opinion, it's one of the easiest things you can do to a car because, once again, it's take off, put on. Now, there's a little bit more into it, especially if you don't know how to work with wires. But with radios, the wires are literally, especially if you need to get the adapter piece for your car, unless it already has a radio in it. Then someone might have cut them. But if you have an older car, because sometimes newer cars get a little bit more into it, but with an older car, really, it's red to red, black to black, purple to purple, green to green, white to white, gray to gray, white with black stripes, so on and so forth. It's just a puzzle. You put everything where it's supposed to be. In my case, I had one wire I had to switch because I had a specialty radio. But other than that, it was red to red, white to white. Simple as that. And like I said, in my opinion, and that's the first thing I'd done to my car as a mod. Before I even got into being a car enthusiast or I started modding my car, I had a radio. I had a whole full-blown sound system in my Focus. That's, once again, it's one of the simplest things you can do. Red to red, black to black. And also, it's something you interact with all the time. And with better audio, let's be honest, better audio is going to lead to a better driving experience. No matter if you're a street strip car or a street track car or a daily driver or anything. It don't even have to be you wanting to mod your car. You're just watching this video because you want to see my pretty face. I recommend you to redo your radio. You don't have to go full blown redo the radio, door speakers, subwoofer. You don't have to go do the whole thing, the whole shabazz. But getting a nice little radio can make everything sound better, make your driving experience better, and honestly, it just makes your car look even more modern. Even if you have an older vehicle that has the old analog radio, you update it, make your interior look a little bit more modern. And yeah, that's it for this list. Thank you guys for watching. Once again, if you got any mods on your mind that you think beginners will love or it'd be really good for beginners, leave them down in the comments below. If you like the video, subscribe, like the video, so on and so forth, man. I'm gonna stop yapping off to y'all. Bye, peace, love you guys.